It is 3:43 in the morning, and I am writing the script. I have stumbled across this lady. I'll be maintaining her privacy throughout this video because she seems like she's genuinely trying to tell stories or something. So voice changer, I won't show her face, all that, but oh my god.
This theme park ride literally laughed in the guests' faces, then cut their legs off.
Wow. Okay. So let's get the obvious things out of the way first. Laughed in their faces and cut their legs off. This could have been worded better. You are really making a stretch. And also, the ride didn't cut their legs off. I know she probably didn't intend that to be interpreted literally, but I've seen a lot of people saying that they were cut off on impact, and that should be obviously not true. The statement is just really over-dramatized. And then she tells a story about how she went on the ride and didn't like it, and the ride was scary. And it's like, oh, okay, once again with the drama. And then she goes on to say this.
The hideous incident that ended up unfolding on this ride was chillingly foreshadowed when the ride malfunctioned during a press preview. Celebrities and journalists had to be rescued from the carriages when the ride stalled on a vertical lift hill. But this wasn't an isolated incident.
I can't let that slide. You know that happens every single day. Not an isolated incident, not at all, because that's part of morning testing. All the time, happens, even with people on it, evacuations happens all the time. So, incredibly normal. To use a lift hill evacuation as foreshadowing for a horrible incident, if you're doing that, you should not make videos on theme park accidents. Please go watch a few Coaster College videos and then maybe come back, but no. And then she references this bolt thing.
Nearly 50 guests had to be evacuated just months later due to a bolt falling from one of the joints of the track.
This is pretty interesting because, oh my god, I have to get my thoughts together. Towers said that they were investigating debris that fell from the track. I can't find anything from HSE or Towers or anything about track separation. I've only been able to find eyewitness and news and stuff, and I don't doubt that it happened, but it definitely was probably not a big gap like a lot of people seem to suggest, because the bolts are welded into the track. One could fall off, because stuff like that happens all the time, by the way. Top Thrill 2 just had track welding, the Fury crack, I know Colossus had bolt work recently, all that kind of stuff. But for enough bolts to come off that creates this big separation in the track, that seems really highly unlikely. Especially with since they inspect track every day, so I don't know about that. But I don't know, there's not really that much information on this incident. But as I said before, happens all the time. This is not foreshadowing to the crash in any way. Happened for completely different reasons. Actually, Ryan the Ride Mechanic made a video on this recently. Welding and that kind of stuff happens a lot more than people think. It's just rare for it to happen during an operational day. But stuff happens sometimes. Nobody was in danger. And then we finally get to the actual crash.
As per safety protocol, they had to send this empty test car round the roller coaster just to make sure it was okay before they loaded guests back on. So they did this, but the test car ended up stalling on the track. Due to a tragic miscommunication, staff thought that the car had returned and it was okay to start the ride again. They reopened the ride with that test car still just stuck on the track.
There wasn't any miscommunication here. The miscommunication was between the maintenance and operations about the block zone fault that stopped the train with riders from crashing into the empty train. That was overridden because of the miscommunication about the number of trains on the track. This block zone error that is not mentioned in the video. How can you make a video on the Smiler crash and not mention block zones?
Again, a warning light started flashing on the control panel to alert the staff there was a car still on the ride. Now, believing this to be a glitch, the staff member overrode that safety feature, sending the full car hurtling towards the empty one.
So not a singular, not one person. She didn't even mention the maintenance team that was there. Or the block zones, or no. Okay, next point.
Emergency services couldn't immediately get to these people who were horrifically injured. It took 4 to 5 hours for teams to construct a temporary scaffold to even get to them. Bear in mind, these people were in agony, suffering severe blood loss during this time.
This is just straight up wrong. It was 4 to 5 hours after the crash that the final person was extracted from the ride, but treatment had begun on victims at around 2:30 p.m. So this is just wrong. And she goes on to talk about the fines and the 2 victims getting married, which is really cool, by the way. And she has made almost 30 videos on theme park incidents. She made one on the new Texas Giant incident that I've made a video on the misinformation surrounding that incident, and big shocker, a lot of that misinformation was in that video too. And the video location on that video was also set as Six Flags Fiesta, Texas, which just Google, come on. Yeah, please do research before making videos on ride accidents, and stop over dramatizing accidents for views. It's gross. Bye, have a good day.